You're listening to Bigfoot Society, and I'm Jeremiah Byron. Tonight's story isn't from a camper or a hiker. It's from a paranormal investigator just trying to get home through the mountains of Colorado. But what he saw on that quiet morning changed everything. October 3rd, 2018, a figure climbs from the river, crosses the road in 4 strides, and locks eyes with the man behind the wheel. Jet black, 9 feet tall, and gone in seconds. This isn't secondhand. This isn't a legend. This is the story of Brian, the man who watched Sasquatch run across the road. So stay with us. All right, Bigfoot Society. You've got the privilege of talking to Brian today. Brian's an individual that I was connected to over on the Facebook platform. And Brian has had an interesting encounter over there by Bailey, Colorado. So welcome to the show, Brian. How's it going today?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
Doing great. We were just talking about some weird electrical things that were happening before we started recording, so we'll see how this goes. But Brian, I want to make sure that you have the time to share what it is that you experience. So I'm going to go ahead, pass things over to you, and we'll go from there.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I first of all am a paranormal investigator, and actually, I was doing a investigation in Cripple Creek, Colorado, and I live in Loveland and in northern Colorado. So my wife had to use the car the next day because we only had one car. So I had to drive overnight to get back. So I'm driving back, and I end up outside of Bailey, Colorado at 7:30 in the morning, Monday, October 3rd, 2018. So I'm the only one on the highway at 7:30 in the morning. There was a car that was probably 2.5 miles ahead of me. So as I'm traveling, there's a river that flows alongside the highway. So as I'm going, all of a sudden I see this figure running up from the river at an angle at my car. And he came up from the river, and there's rocks actually between the highway and the river. So he climbed the rocks. And what I saw, I could not believe. So he came out, and he went across 75 feet from my car. It was a jet black male Bigfoot, 9 feet tall. And he took 4 lunging footsteps across the highway in front of my car. And seeing this, I could not believe what I was seeing. And so, as he went across, he started to slow up as he was going up into there was a hill that goes up into the woods. And so he slowed up. So I slowed my car down to like 5 miles per hour. And I looked out my window, my door window, and I got within, I'd say, 10 feet of him. And saw the back, which was huge, and saw the head, which was the cone-shaped head up there. And then he slowly went up into the woods. And I probably had about 12 different emotions going through me at the time. And it totally changed my whole aspect of what is out there in the woods. And of course, in that area, which I learned, I got a hold of the Sasquatch Outpost Museum in Bailey. And I talked to my friend Jim Myers, who was the owner. And I later find out that that area is ground zero for sightings. So I'm not the only one to have a sighting out there. So that's what got me more interested in, searching for Bigfoot. So we went back up there in 2019, and Jim and I went out to the area where I had my sighting. And we found huge footprints in the sand. And that was incredible. And so what we did, we went up to Kenosha Pass, which is about probably 5 miles away from Bailey, Colorado. And actually, 2 weeks after I had my sighting, a mother and daughter had an encounter up there, and they got actually chased by three of them, and they had rocks thrown at them at their car. So Jim and I went up there, and this is during the day. And we spent probably an hour or so up there doing Bigfoot calls. And all of a sudden, we got a whoop sound, and we got a tree knock up there. And Jim's like, we got to get out of here now. And I did take photographs of that area. And supposedly, I couldn't see it, but a lady on Facebook said that she saw one of them watching us up there as well. So, yes. So anyhow, further a year after that, 2 years after that, I live in Loveland, which is up in northern Colorado. And I'm between here and Estes Park. And so I went up to what is called Glen Haven. It's a very, very small town. And I went up there hiking alone during the day once. And I did a Bigfoot call and immediately got a growl back. And it was no other animal I could even think of. And this thing was close. And so I just like, well, I'm done for the day, and I got out of there. And so yeah, I've had a couple experiences. One visual, two vocal, up there. And I tell you, it's incredible. These things do exist. And so last year we went up to Bigfoot Days up into Estes Park. And I got to meet Ronnie LeBlanc, Russell Accord, and Renee Holland. And Russell heard my story about my encounter. And incredibly awesome guy, very friendly, very in-depth. And he's just like, Brian, I really need to sit down and talk to you, and I want all the details of what you saw. And so I got to sit down with him, tell him everything that I saw. And so, yeah, I mean, I tell you, it changes your perspective of life on what's out there in the woods. So, yes, and people are asking me, are like, well, didn't you have it on camera? I go, I wasn't even looking for Bigfoot that day. I was just trying to get home, and it was just a random thing that happened. It just, he came out of nowhere. I was totally unprepared. I wasn't even thinking about Bigfoot. And, yeah, I mean, it was an incredible sight to see. And when he went across that highway, I mean, he had that big arm swing that you saw in the Patterson Gimlet film. That big, striving arm swing. And the footsteps, 4 footsteps. That's all it took to get across a 3-lane highway. And he was booking it. And he wanted to get up into that woods quickly. So, yeah, and I've talked, since I've had these encounters, I've talked to other individuals in the state that have had encounters, and I've had one guy talk to me about, one guy up in Red Feather Lakes, which is an hour from here. I talked to this gentleman, and him and his friend and 3 of his dogs were surrounded by them. And so his dogs took off, but they found him the next morning, no harm done or anything like that. So me and my wife went up to Red Feathers, and we saw structures up there as well, too. And I did set up trail cams in some spots, and I did get eye shine on one of the trail cams up there. But I could not, decipher if it was a mountain lion or it was a different kind of animal. I just saw what looked like eyes. I talked to a guy that was in South Park, that lived in South Park recently, and he heard them all the time in the woods. The whoops, the screams, the howls, everything. And so Colorado is definitely a hotspot for Bigfoot activity as well. So,
Oh,
yeah, I've had plenty of experiences.
Brian, that's some really interesting encounters that you've had. And I would agree. You know, I've actually been talking to a few Colorado people over the last few weeks. They're just not out yet, and it's just I've actually just talked to Jim about a week ago, which is such a fun chat. But that Bailey, Colorado
Jim's
area,
incredible, isn't he?
he is. But I mean, that area does have some really interesting Bigfoot activity going on. Did you just some questions about that sighting you had? What you were able to see go across the road in front of you? Would you categorize it as something that looked more ape-like or human-like, or is it just something completely out of nowhere?
If you've ever seen the famous Gimlet or Robert Patterson Gimlet film, exactly what I saw.
Wow.
Just yeah. I mean, this. I was very close, and people asked me, "How do you know it was a male?" And the angle that he came at, okay, and I did see the face as well too for a fraction of a couple seconds. I did see the face because I'm sorry, he came at let's see, if you're looking outside your car and you're looking through the passenger window and looking kind of at an angle, that's what he came at. So I had a front view of him before he turned. And yeah, his face completely dark, jet black. This is just my interpretation. He had to be about 800 pounds of pure muscle, at least. I mean, this thing was huge. And the day I talked to Jim, Jim's a fantastic human being. I love Jim. And he's just like, "Where did you see it? Where did you see it?" I go, "Just out by, it's called Ben Tyler Trail, which is also another place where a gentleman in 2016 had a sighting with his pit bull. He saw a female Sasquatch. He was only 50 feet away from that. And so it was in that area. But I'd say between a humanoid and an ape-like type of a creature. He was upright, ran, just huge. I mean, about 9 feet tall. And yeah, I mean, most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life.
Was there anything that you noticed that the Bigfoot community usually gets wrong about Bigfoot?
You know, what frustrates me is people, the trolls. Okay, it's just I'm sorry, it just frustrates me. It's people that criticize other people into believing, what they saw. Okay, and all I can say is to these people that criticize them, go out in the woods, go out and camp. Experience this. Go into areas that are known for Bigfoot activity, and you'll see for yourself. Okay, so having said that, my wife, when she was 7 years old, had the most incredible Bigfoot experience you'll ever have. So she was camping with her family in California, and she went on a little nature hike. She came face to face with one 7 feet away in broad daylight. She looked down at the feet. It was a dusty tan Bigfoot. And she said that it was sniffing the air, it was grunting, and it was just, and then it ran off and hid. And so, yeah, I mean, you got to experience it. If you don't believe in it, go out in the woods where there's high activity and experience it, and you'll see for yourself that these creatures do exist. And they're good at hiding. They're good at camouflaging, they're good at hiding. But I'll tell you, the screams, the yells, everything will put shockwaves through your body. And they will, because they are loud and powerful. And I could tell one more story here. I talked to a lady a couple years ago with her husband who were camping up in Steamboat Springs in Colorado. And they were in their tent, and she heard footsteps going around the tent. And all of a sudden, the big hand pushed down against the tent and caressed her head. It went across her head. And then it took off. So, yes. And also, I've gotten I've actually gone to Minnesota, out to Remer, Minnesota, which they proclaim the Bigfoot capital of the world up there. And I've talked to witnesses up there that have had experiences as well up there. So not only have I been in Colorado doing this, but I've also had the privilege of going up to Minnesota and also experiencing it up there as well. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a place that is on my list to visit eventually as well. But would you ever want to have another sighting again?
Oh, definitely. I go out looking for these things. Your adrenaline, when you see it, your adrenaline just goes into overdrive. I mean, people ask me, what were you thinking? And I go, shock, surprise, being scared, just total in awe of these creatures. Just everything just goes through you like that and stuff. And it just, I couldn't believe what I seen, especially during the day. And these creatures, usually are at night and hide and everything in the woods and stuff like that. But once you see one out in the daylight like that is just incredible. And we just had one in Longmont, 17 miles away from here. I just told you about, remember I talked to you about that one. Out by, outside of Longmont, Colorado, out in the open. And a lady just saw it, what was it, a week and a half ago, out in the open, out on the road. And she described that one around 8 feet tall, around 10:30 at night. She saw it and everything. She said the moonlight illuminated the creature. It was upright. She said, 52 years of living here, I've never seen anything like that. And so, their behavior is unpredictable. I mean, they're intelligent creatures. I mean, they know how to hide. They know how to camouflage. And I mean, it's people that don't believe need to go out into the woods to experience it themselves.
It also, if they do, to just be aware of, just be, the old saying, be careful what you wish for, because well, I guess that's a question for you. Being a paranormal investigator, I would imagine you're very sensitive to things. You're probably very intuitive. Did this affect you in any way after this sighting, regards to being sensitive to things, or?
No. It just got me interested, and it kind of really got me going into now, besides doing investigations for the paranormal, going out and looking for these things and stuff, interviewing people and stuff. And, of course, last year meeting Ronnie LeBlanc and Russell Accord from Expedition Bigfoot, and then meeting Renee Holland from, Finding Bigfoot. I mean, Renee was just like, wow, what an experience. I haven't had one yet. I could not even fathom what you would have been thinking. I go, yeah, it's something. It is just incredible. I mean, and so, yeah, I mean, my boss where I work, his brother saw one in California too, as well too. And so, yeah, I mean, it's an incredible thing. And what really, watching these shows and everything like that, everything too. And, my belief is too is if you respect them, they'll leave you alone. Okay, if you are going to observe them, respect them, keep your distance. And if things get too out of control to where they're coming after you, get out there. Don't try to engage them because of course you're not going to win on that one. But if you do see one, be still. Don't overreact. Don't try to be aggressive with them and stuff. So I could tell you that the one up in Glen Haven, we saw structures up there as well too. And I just talked to a guy that worked in the forest industry just about 2 weeks ago. Up in that area he was, and he heard screams as well too, Bigfoot screams as well. And so that area up there is also a hotspot for sightings, as well as Rocky Mountain National Park. A guy just filmed one during the day walking in the park. So Colorado is a hotspot for Bigfoot activity.
Did you say there was one just filmed in Rocky Mountain Park?
Yeah, I'm not sure when it was. I saw it on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
I've been trying to find it on YouTube, but I can't find it. But I saw it on Facebook. Okay. And the gentleman it was during the day, he was filming and he saw one walking in the woods. And there have been reports in Rocky Mountain National Park of Bigfoot sightings as well too. And I did have a former friend who told me that she and her friend were horseback riding one. And they heard a scream and the horses got startled. And so they immediately got out of there as well too. So, I mean, they're around. I mean, it's a fascinating thing is when you experience what I experienced, it totally changes your life.
I can only imagine. Mm-hmm. I really can only imagine. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts about why Colorado seems to be just a perfect spot? I mean, there's so many things that seem to happen out there.
All the mountains. It's just plain and simple. Wooded areas, the mountains, a lot of places to hide up there and stuff. So what really has got me curious is why Bailey is such a hot spot. And I could tell you that there's so much wooded area up in that area and stuff, and there's so many places to hide. Plus, you've got like ranches, river systems, all that stuff, fish, everything that they need to survive. And so that area is really a good location for sightings up there. So, yeah. Talking to Jim too and learning all these areas as well too, and, kind of figuring out where, the look and everything too is another key to looking for these creatures.
Oh, absolutely. Do you have any ideas about why you both had to leave so quickly after, was it you heard a knock and a scream and...
Okay, so, I was with Jim that day, mm-hmm. Okay? And Jim had that enhanced microphone. And so we did a Bigfoot call. And all of a sudden you hear, whoop, and then you hear a huge tree knock. And Jim's just like, turned to me, he goes, we got to get out of here. Because they were close. And being in that, where we were out in the middle of nowhere, okay, and stuff. I mean, there was back roads and everything we had to go through and stuff. And so, yeah, we were kind of in a perilous situation there, And so, yeah, we got in the truck and got out there and stuff. And so, but yeah, I mean, it's something. I mean, the guy that saw with his pit bull, the female Sasquatch, of course, Jim he had a painting done. Jim has that up in his museum and everything too. And I guess this guy was so traumatized he moved out of state. I mean, he was so traumatized. He actually ran. I guess his dog beat him to the car, but he didn't even go down the whole trail. He just went shortcuts to get out of there and everything too. And from what I hear about that one was that it just grunted. It just like that to him. But it didn't do anything else, thankfully. But he was pretty freaked out. He was pretty traumatized about that. And I can concur. It's a very shocking thing to see. It'll change your life forever. It'll put perspective of what's out there in the woods. And of course, people that don't believe in Bigfoot, you got to remember that half of the forest areas in this country are not even, we haven't even scratched the surface of investigating all these areas where they can be hiding.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you just fly over the Pacific Northwest and you look down and you just think how much of that woods have we actually been in before, or has it been years and years? And it's really, really makes you wonder. Being a paranormal investigator, trying to think do you think there are times when people report hauntings, but they're actually Bigfoot activities, and maybe vice versa?
Well, that's a good question. That is a really good question. I've been watching a lot of shows and everything too, and these Bigfoots, people say they're dimensional and stuff like that, and they can cloak and stuff like that, and so there is there is a difference with paranormal, with spirits and everything, and Bigfoot, but people say, okay, with Bigfoot, could they be extraterrestrial? Because people have actually saw, like possible UFOs before Bigfoot encounter. There could be dimensional creatures where they can just disappear without leaving footprints and stuff like that. And so, yeah, there is a close tie with the paranormal with Bigfoot, yes, and possibly extraterrestrial activity as well too. So yeah, I mean it's very interesting that Bigfoot, possibly can cloak themselves to hide. I mean, they're very intelligent creatures. They do know how to hide. People, talk about, okay, why haven't we found bones or anything like that? Well, I think they are good at burying their dead and leaving no trace of that. I think that they are very good at covering their tracks. They don't want to be, seen or heard. They do know how to cloak themselves with the natural environment of being in the woods. So yeah, I mean, there's correlations of the paranormal and Bigfoot. Yes, there are.
Some fascinating stuff. It really does make you wonder. And, you hear some of these reports and you think it's kind of like what I was talking to Jim. You just have to keep your mind open and not discount anything,
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing is with people that criticize people that believe. And that really kind of just irritates me. It's just like, well, if you're going to criticize people, go out and do it yourself and experience it. So what we're going to do next summer, me and my wife, is we're actually going to go on to the Bailey area and we're going to camp. We're going to go out there and camp. And we're going to put up trail cams. We're going to see what goes on and everything too. And that's really one of my fascinations too is, doing an overnight investigation and seeing if they'll come around to the tents, which they often do. I don't know if you've seen just the recent episode of Expedition Bigfoot where Maria and Vico had their tents destroyed or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, they are curious creatures. They are. And if people don't believe, go out and look for yourself and experience it, and it'll totally change your life. It will.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Brian, I would say, keep me in the loop with what happens when you and your wife go out to camp overnight in that Bailey area.
Mm-hmm.
From what Jim has told me, there's some really wild things that happen out there. So,
has Jim? What has Jim actually? I'm just kind of curious. Just thing. Has Jim said? Has there been recent activity out there at all? I'm just kind of curious.
He was telling me some, and this is stuff that is a while back. I mean, he was talking about his first visual at Wellington Lake, and
yeah, he told me about that one.
The how a lot of stuff happens around an area called the Castle, I think. But nothing specifically recently. But we were just talking about his history.
So me and my wife are going to move up to Minnesota in 2 more years. And so I'm actually going to start, if you wanted, we're going to actually start doing Bigfoot investigations up there as well, too. And actually going into Wisconsin, going into all these hot areas. So you said you want to go up there. Do go to Remer, Minnesota, which is the hot spot. And I've talked to locals around there. They've had a lot of activity around there as well. So I can't confirm this one, but we went to Remer a couple of summers ago. We went up and we went back. We went into the woods. And I'm not really sure about this one because it was really quick, but I swear that I did see one running alongside the car with us during the day. But it was in the woods as well. So I possibly had one up in Minnesota as well, too.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, they're up there. I mean, if you've seen, there's a famous, if you go up into YouTube, 2014, just go on YouTube, type Christmas, Bigfoot Christmas 2014. One actually during the day walked into the yard while they were celebrating Christmas. And the girl and the guy went out and videotaped it. And you see it walking in the woods. And their dog actually went and barked at it. But yeah, I mean, it came into the yard and then it went back into the woods.
Yep, I know the exact one you're talking about.
That one is good. That one is really good. But, and people ask me, did you get video on it? I go, I wasn't even looking for it that day. It was 7:30 in the morning. I wanted to get home. And it just, and that's the thing about Bigfooting. You never know when it's going to happen. It's, they can come out of nowhere.
That's true. And so many of these encounters, it seems like, it doesn't happen when you're expecting it or when you have everything ready. Like I got my recorder and my camera ready to go. It's not going to happen then. It's when you don't have that stuff. And then it's just, you're just, I guess, enjoy it if you can, but.
Well, exactly. And that's the thing too. It's just, especially, it can happen during the day. It can happen during the night and stuff like that. And, I mean, if people want to go out and do it, do big, the whoop calls are really good. Do a lot of tree knocks, and just go out to reported areas like Bailey. And you might get lucky. I mean, you might not, but you might get lucky. Yeah, I know Jim very well, and stuff like that. His stories are fascinating. And so, yeah, I mean, it changes your life forever. And anybody wants to, I do have a page, North American Sasquatch page on Facebook. If anybody wants to check that out, I do have that one as well too. So
absolutely would not. We'll make sure to put the link for that in the description.
And one other thing too is with my wife when she was 7. I've read about fascinating reports, like one report of a little child about 4 years old in North Carolina that went missing for 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
And he came back unharmed. And they asked him, "Are you okay?" And he goes, "Tall, hairy creatures took care of me." And so with my wife, when she was 7, this thing never harmed her. It never was aggressive towards her or anything like that. So I think with children and everything too, I think really, I really don't think that they're threatened with children and everything. It's fascinating with that. But yeah, I mean, there's been some really incredible, reports of children going missing and coming back. And, one other thing too, she was the famous psychic who did the Amityville horror. I forget her name. She was her and her husband. They went out because they were never in the Bigfoot. And they were called out to do, Lorraine Warren, here's their name, went out to Pennsylvania, where this creature was stalking this house. And they went out and she saw blood trails. And she was able to telepathically communicate with this Bigfoot. And this Bigfoot was saying, "I don't mean any harm or anything like that. I'll leave." And it was hurt, and she saw a blood trail. And that's another thing is with the paranormal and Bigfoot is it's possible, telepathic communication, ways of communicating as well too. So, I mean, there's a lot of stories out there and everything, and I think it's just fascinating.
It is one of those subjects where, I think it's the last great mystery, and you hear one more account, and it just sends you on a trail to another one, and I thoroughly enjoy it. But Brian, thank you so much for chatting tonight, and definitely, keep me informed with what happens to you guys in the future. But we'll definitely have to be in touch, and thank you.
You're welcome. You have a good night.
You too, sir.
All right. Bye.
Just wanted to take a minute to say thank you truly for listening to this episode of the Bigfoot Society podcast. Brian's story isn't just about a sighting, it's about a moment that cracked reality wide open. From that riverbank near Bailey to the growl in Glen Haven, his experiences remind us how close the mystery really is and how fast it can come running. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe to us on YouTube and hit that bell so you never miss an episode, and share this one with a friend who's into Bigfoot, Colorado, or the unexplained. On Spotify or Apple Podcasts, follow the show, and if you could leave a review, it helps so much. And hey, if you or someone you know has had a Bigfoot encounter, especially in Colorado, I want to hear from you, so shoot me an email at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. And also, don't forget, Sasquatch Summerfest is coming up July 11th through the 12th at Green Waters Park in Oak Ridge, Oregon. Bigfoot Society listeners can get 2-day passes for the price of one with code BFS, that's BFS, at checkout. Tickets are available now at www.sasquatchsummerfest.com, and I hope to see you there, because I'll be there. Thanks again for being part of the Bigfoot Society. Until next time, keep your eyes open, trust your gut, and never stop wondering what else might be out there. And see you in the woods.